All right.
Okay, hello everybody. My name's James Crovo. I'm a junior CS major, and this is my project at NASFAQ, NASFAQ. It's kind of a play on words with NASDAQ, which you'll see why in a second. Yeah, in terms of my teammates, this semester I didn't have any in RCOS, but I do have a team outside of RPI, but I didn't think it was necessary to name them. Right, so let's go to the next slide. So what is NASFAQ? NASFAQ is a financial market simulation game based on the performance of various YouTube channels. Each channel is assigned a coin that players can buy and sell with their limited balance. So yeah, when a player signs up for the website, their account gets a certain amount of liquid in cash, which is based on the average market index. And then with that balance, they can buy and sell coins. The prices are affected in real time by the market demand. So say if a lot of players are buying a certain coin, the price is going to tend upwards, and likewise for if a lot of players are selling a coin. And then once a day, all the prices of each coin are adjusted towards a fundamental yield value that we calculate once daily based on various channel metrics such as subscribers, daily subscribers, view counts, stuff like that. Once a week, each coin also pays dividends based on the weekly average of the past 7 days of their statistics. And this offers another incentive and another fundamental value that will get players to adjust how their portfolio looks. And so the goal of the game is profit. This is done by performing due diligence on the channels, and being an active player and observing market trends, staying up to date on how the channels are performing. The earlier you get in on a market shift, the more you'll profit. So if you see that a channel is going to do well in a few weeks and you start buying in before other players do, then once that coin rises, you'll profit. The website is also kind of competitive, so we have a global leaderboard which ranks all the players based on their net worths, and we also have a ranking for each coin, which shows the top 5 players who own the most shares of each coin, and we call that the board of directors for each coin. And we also have a text board and a forum for discussion, so all the players can talk to each other, and we can get some feedback on how the site's doing. And currently we have about over 2,000 registered users, so there's a good amount of activity on the site. So the stack, this is how the website is built. On the front end, it's just a basic React app. So we use React.js for the components, Redux for communicating with the server and storing the website state, and everything is styled with SCSS. On the back end, on the front end, that's also written in TypeScript, and as well as the back end, that's written in TypeScript using Node.js, Express.js for the web server. We use Redis for storing the cache and all the market values because those get updated a lot and that needs to be fast. We use Postgres for storing user information and for archiving price history and things like that. We use Nginx for deployment, so that takes care of our reverse proxy. Parcel is what I use to build the front end and deploy it on the server. We have a Python app that kind of manages the data scraping for doing the daily price adjustments and things like that. And yeah, as I said, both the front and the back end are written in TypeScript for the web-based things. So in terms of project organization, I basically keep a kind of Kanban board, pseudo Kanban board, and in just a text file. And this text file, has things to do, things that are being worked on, things that have been done. And I just share this with my team members, when it gets updated. That's something we can improve in the future going forward. And we make sure to commit all changes that we make early and often so that we're all up to date, and we each have our own separate branch for each deliverable. We have a Discord server for the dev team so we can communicate and know what's going on. And this Discord server also has a feedback channel, which we have like select players on. So like the top players, they know the most about the game and the gameplay, so we kind of think their feedback's more valuable. The dev team, we meet once a week every Sunday, and we bring up any issues that were brought to our attention during the previous week, things that need to be worked on, and we brainstorm on balancing the gameplay mechanics because it's pretty finicky with what the players want and how they think it's going. And we also interact with the player base on the floor. So this is where players bring up things that aren't working for them, any bugs that they found, what can be improved, any balance tweaks that need to be done. And the site also keeps a change log on the info page that we update every time we change something so that all the players know what's been changed. So then, going forward in the future, some things we can improve. Like I said, maybe instead of using a text file for our work in progress, we can use like one of the online services that are offered, like Trello boards or the GitHub projects, stuff like that. We could definitely meet more often than we are currently, and one idea that we've passed around is having a separate deployment, so like a private testing site where we can push changes that maybe we're not so sure of will work, and we can have maybe a few players have access to that, and they can play around with it and tell us what they think. So that could be something else to do in the future. So this semester, some of the goals I had that I wanted to get done, we wanted to change the adjustment time to better accommodate the players' time zones. So in the spring, and when we first released, the adjustment time was like 1 a.m. Eastern time, which wasn't great for a lot of the players. We have people playing all over the world, so it's not really easy to accommodate everybody, but a lot of players are in the United States, and 1 a.m. wasn't great. So we wanted to move it to a better time. We wanted to introduce some money sinks. So these were things that players can just spend money on and not get anything back in return. So like cosmetic items, super chats, auctions, like gotcha rolls, so like just chance items, things like that. Because we were having a lot of problems with inflation, because every week the dividends would get paid out, and people were just building up tons of liquid. And there's nothing to spend the liquid on other than coins, and then that would increase the prices, and we had inflation. So we needed something else to spend money on. Some other mechanics were like options trading was an idea, shorting some coins, and then just in general getting better organized as a team to avoid bugs. And we've experienced some deployment mishaps where we didn't communicate enough and things weren't in sync with what we thought they were going to be, and just upset the players a little bit. But we try to mitigate that. So then, this is just the change log. What we did get done, things come up along the way that we didn't expect, and more feedback throughout the semester, things to add. So the first thing we did was we did move the adjustment time. We moved it to 9 a.m. Eastern time, 9:05. The reason we moved it to that time was just so that I guess it would better imitate like the real stock market, because that's about when they open. We did add the super chat feature, so now you can spend money and send like messages to the coins and like have a custom news feed for each coin. We added an auto trader because currently there's a 10-minute cooldown on buying and trading coins, and people thought they were wasting time sitting there, waiting 10 minutes to buy. So we added a tool that would just, have certain trade rules and buy for them. Other cosmetic things like turning off trade notifications, drag and drop for reorganize the market section, updating some icons. We had 2 IPOs, so 2 new coins over the semester, which involved, adding those to the front end, as well as optimizing some things on the back end that we realized needed to be fixed. We, tweaked some gameplay mechanics. This happened a lot. We fix something, then some players aren't happy with it, so we have to, roll it back or figure out how to compromise. A lot of this was spawned from like the problem of inflation and high volatility and stuff like that. We did get to add that item system, so now users can collect unique assets that they can spend money on. We reduced the market volatility, so as you can see, we raised it and then we had to reduce it. We removed these kind of overbuying mechanisms that we thought would kind of bring the market back to like fundamental values. People didn't like that. I refactored the admin control panel so it's more organized and flexible, so we have more control over the how the website's performing without the dev team having to tell me to do it and go in. Now they can do it since they're admins. I made some site performance optimizations, which is how we handle the cache in the back end, how we handle socket connections, things like that. Added more statistics to the website, such as like mean purchase price, that people wanted to know that. Adding like YouTube and Twitter links to the market page for each coin. And then the last thing that we added just last week was the gotcha system. So now people can, spend money, roll a die, you get a chance to win some items back. So that would hopefully like remove some liquid from the economy as well. Right, so then going forward, still a lot of things we want to add and change. Things like auctions, we didn't get a chance to add this summer, so that'd be great. So now people can like player-to-player transactions. That's kind of a really big thing that we want to add at some point. Art galleries would also factor into the auctions, shorting options, trade orders, giving items like special abilities, so that players would have more of an incentive to buy them. Maybe have things like seasonal earning competitions. New coins will inevitably be coming at some point, so we'll have to manage that. Maybe have coins that represent market indexes, or just a separate statistics page for that. Maybe some betting pools. I know people are already kind of doing that on their own without the actual functionality on the site. So if we add that, that would be probably looked favorably upon. And then, just expanding the dev team, getting more players to give us feedback, and making the site better in general, keep optimizing, etc. So I think now I'm just going to show, okay. So this is an example of the market page, what it currently looks like. So you can see each coin has its own little module that shows its price history. These all update in real time, so every time you buy a coin, the prices change. And so that way you can like see how the prices are moving and how the market's performing. And then you can see at the top right, you just get those little notifications for when you buy a coin. This is the auto trader that I added. So on the left, you have like all the coins, and then you can toggle them on or off to add a roll. And once you toggle it on, it'll show up on the right, and those are all the trade rolls. And you just basically set a target quantity that you want the auto trader to buy or sell to, and you just leave it on, and it'll do that for you. So now people don't have to like babysit the website if they want, to get rid of all their coins of a certain type, or they want to buy to a certain amount. So that's the one thing I added. This is the leaderboard. You see the people at the top are pretty rich at the moment, and you have the ability to see people's assets. So if you want to see want to keep track of like how the players are trading, you can see that. This is an example of the board of directors kind of leaderboard. So it shows for each coin who the top 5 players who own that coin are, so who has the most control of the market for that coin. This is the super chats page. So this is where you can like kind of donate to a coin, and it gives a little ranking for who's the top donators and who are the top earners. That's just an example of how you would send a super chat. So you just put in the amount of money and the message, and it comes up. This is the history page. So this is where players kind of stay on if they want to see what's going on in the market, who's trading what. Shows for each coin how many buys and sells there were. The other day we had 100,000 transactions, which was a new record, which is pretty good. It shows a timeline at the bottom of what's going on. So you can see, I think in the middle that's 9 a.m. So that's when most of the trades happen, and then it kind of dwindles off for the rest of the day. And then this is the gotcha that we just added last week. So you can roll either roll 1 or roll 10, and then you get a chance to receive some items. And a lot of people have been using that. I think several $1 million have been drained out of the economy with that. That's working as intended. And then this is the floor. This is the final thing. This is just where we have player feedback. So once you have an account, you can post in any of one of these threads. People kind of give feedback and ideas for what to change and things like that. That's it. So thank you very much.
Cool. All right. Before you sit down, Oh, yeah,
Questions?
yeah, yeah.
Let's see, anybody here have questions? I'm trying to find the online web. Let's see, go ahead.
So, are there ways for players to kind of externally change the values of the coin? Like, something that I'm thinking of in specific is how, like, certain scams have become popular where certain influencers will kind of, like, hype up, like a poop coin, I think they call it.
Yeah.
And you know, the whole concept is that they'll hype it up so a lot of people will buy into it and then they'll sell it off immediately. And, you know,
Right.
so is that something that you plan to kind of get in there, some way to externally influence the price of coins?
Definitely that is possible with the whole discussion. People, there are coins on the website that people refer to as what you said, those poop coins. So those are the coins that have lower volume, meaning they're higher volatility. People like to hype them up, raise the price, and then dump them all once they're all. So yeah, there's definitely that kind of dynamic that goes on. It can be pretty entertaining, but yeah, that's kind of in terms of like all the gameplay mechanics we have to balance. So you know how the prices are changing. There's a lot of different factors to think about. That we've had a lot of like fine tuning and tweaking. We're still doing that now. Yeah, at the moment it's pretty balanced. I think players think it's almost a little too stagnant. So you know that's another thing that they're missing is that kind of pump and dump kind of mechanics that they used to be able to do that they can't do anymore because the volume of all the coins are so high. Yeah, definitely. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else before I come in with a couple? Because I gotta come in with a couple. It's required of the position. All right, so here's my first one.
Okay.
So I want to look at your. You have some ways of working with your small group.
Mm-hmm.
What's the? You said you want to get some more developers. What would be the first thing you would want to do as an open source project? You know, what do you think? What single thing do you think you could do that would make it more attractive to bring in people outside of your core group?
Right. Definitely a lot of the feedback we get are just like little things on the front end, like quality of life improvements, cosmetic things. That wouldn't really be hard to add, but it's just like I don't have time to do it because I'm focusing on a lot of the more major gameplay aspects. And that's things that, if you're experienced with front-end development or whatever, you could, and it is open source, so someone could go in and add those things if they wanted. So I guess making that more clear would be, if you want some kind of feature on the front end, you can do that. We don't really currently say that anywhere on the website that it is open source, so maybe that's providing a link to the GitHub would be a good idea, but yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and if you were to do something like that, you could even put those into issues and mark them as
Right.
good starter. You could still have your board kind of get together and decide which ones. You don't have to let anybody just come in.
Right.
You can put in the issues that you guys like, and you can do pull requests. But I think that's actually a really good way of good answer. The other one I have is you adjust the price every night. You said, right?
Every morning. Yeah.
Every morning.
Yeah.
Can you always buy stock at that price, or because normally if I buy stock, I have to find somebody that's willing to sell it at the price I'm offering. So there's not really a set price. I just have to find somebody who's willing.
Right. How the broker works on the back end is he basically just mints coins whenever someone wants to buy. So there isn't really exactly true to life where it's player to player. But with a lot of feedback, I think players agree that would kind of ruin some gameplay aspects. Yeah, so the market closes at adjustment time for like a few minutes to adjust all the prices. And then once it opens, everybody it's just a free-for-all with buying and selling. But there's no limits on, as long as you can afford it, you can buy it, basically. So.
Okay, cool. That's one of the ways to get away from your inflation is to force something like that where the price can't keep going up. Somebody has to be willing to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool. I'm not saying, I just wanted to make sure I understood it.
No, yeah, I understand.
It seems like you're doing well. Those were my two questions. Anybody else have a question? All right, let's, we got a comment from Rachel Wayne, also looking into getting, I guess that's front-end researchers and designers would help you get more targeted feedback on usability. Which, by the way, we may be running next semester. You're still going to be a junior, so you'll be around.
Yep, yep.
We may be running concurrently with the human factors group out of outside. What they've historically done is a couple weeks into the semester they've come and they've attached themselves to projects who are willing to have an evaluation. And then they've done a usability evaluation and discussions with the group. You know, nothing binding, but it's a good way if you're looking for additional feedback on usability, and that's not necessarily your forte. You could consider something like that as well, participating in that program and getting a semi-professional evaluation.
Okay.
They're students, so they don't think they're professionals yet, but they're
Cool.
the next best thing. We've gotten some really good feedback.
Nice, thank you.
Okay, so cool. Thank you. Nice talk, Rachel. All right. So that was NASFAC. If you are filling out your entry forms there. The next one we have is somebody else. And by the way, here's the presentation schedule with the evaluation form if you guys need it. Next is Open Horizon. Open Horizon, I think you guys are at least semi-remote, correct? But not totally remote.
Yes.
Okay, so did you also give me a link in Discord? Like the one that says Open Horizon right
Yes.
behind?
I just put it
Yeah.
on SRISHTI.
All right. Is everybody online hearing our remote crew?
Yep.
All right. This may work better than anticipated. So here you go. You can take over the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. We are Open Horizon team. Open Horizon is a powerful platform that can automatically manage the containerized applications. I will discuss this more details later. So here's our content. We will separate our presentation into 6 parts so that you can better understand what the Open Horizon is and what we will done this semester. Okay, so introducing the team. My name is Zhu Yu, CS and CSV dual major.
My name is Zhe Yan, and I'm computer science major.
So what is Open Horizon? Open Horizon is a platform for managing the service software lifecycle of containerized workloads and related machine learning assets. It enables autonomous management of applications deployed to distributed web-scale fleets of edge computing nodes and devices. And this process won't require on-premise administrators. So, to be more specific, Open Horizon simplifies the job of getting the application and machine learning onto the right compute devices and keep them running and updated. So it can automatically manage more than 10,000 edge devices simultaneously. That's 20 times as many endpoints as in the traditional solutions. So it's very powerful. Next. However, Open Horizon is for Windows. So our project proposal this semester is enabling it to run on Windows. And this is our timeline. After joining the team, we used first 2 weeks to decide on the project proposal and arrange a regular team meeting on every Friday. And for the next 9 weeks, we code out Open Horizon program and learn how it works. Then we decide to use WSL. WSL is a Windows subsystem for Linux. We use it as a bridge from Linux operating system to Windows. In the rest of these 9 weeks, we successfully set up the Docker and WSL. We try to run the installation program and fix the runtime bugs. However, there's still a bug that we haven't fixed yet, so Julian will talk about it later. We'll try to fix it in this week. So if everything works fine in the last week of this semester, we are going to write an application, instruction about how to set up these things and enable Open Horizon on Windows.
Okay, I'm going to talk about our contributions. First, the Open Horizon is based on the Dockers, and the Dockers is kind of an open source containerization platform which enables the developers package applications into containers, and that's exactly how we did in this semester to let the Open Horizon run the Windows. So this is also our first step, and we clone the repository of Open Horizon on GitHub, and we noticed that there is a Docker Compose file in the repository. So we try to run the Docker Compose file in the Windows PowerShell, and certainly it gives us some errors that the environment variables are not set. So our next step is going to set up to find out where the environment variables are. And second, we noticed that there's another .sh file, which is a shell file running on the Linux system. So we try to enter the bash in the Windows PowerShell and run the .sh file. Unluckily, it cannot be run at first, so we try to find and fix the bugs in the .sh file script. Since we don't have previous experience with the .sh file, so there is still some errors, but we can now successfully run this .sh file in the Windows shell. And as you can see, this is our current blocks. It shows that there is a SSL certificate problem. As we run the .sh file in the virtual machine, it can run successfully and automatically generate some environment variables. So, in the next 2 weeks, we will continue to debug the .sh file, and we are not sure if there will be more problem after we fix this issue. If there's no more problem, I think we are done for this project. And we also made some plans for the next semester if there are more issues appear. We will write some instructions on how to make the Open Horizon run on Windows, and we will continue to solve the rest of issues in the Open Horizon. And that's all. Any questions?
Anybody local? Anybody online have a question for Open Horizon? So while we're waiting for anybody else, let's talk about a couple of things. So how are you set up to work with the IBM guys? Did you have a consistent way of, because this was an IBM project, right?
Yes. Yeah, we got a Linux Foundation on the website, and so we will communicate with them around 2 to 3 times a week. Once we get progress or get some problem, we will communicate with them or to find some solutions. Because we are not so familiar with the Windows and the Bash, so they can offer us some help.
And that's worked pretty good?
Yeah.
Do they have a good infrastructure for supporting these types of projects?
We are trying to do these things ourselves, but they got some platform, but we didn't use this semester.
I think the other one, give me just a second, I was thinking of another question. Oh, yeah, so what exactly is an edge device? You talked about this being able to manage edge devices.
Yeah, I think Zhongyu maybe can answer these questions.
Actually, I can't really hear what Professor says. Can you hear again?
You know what, I could probably actually turn on my microphone, but it may echo. Yeah, so. Okay. That is not gonna work.
It's fine.
So my question was just, you guys mentioned edge devices. What exactly is an edge device? Could you define that for us?
I have some examples. Edge devices can be variable. It can be like robotic arm, smart cars, like cameras, or some like factories that can run run the applications. Something like that.
All right, any more questions for Open Horizons? All right. Just type up some comments. All right, so thank you. Okay, and today we have one more. I think this is a dual project, YASH and SRISHTI on
Hello.
hi.
I'll screen share the slides because I want to run through a demo too.
Yep. I'm trying to get myself over to, once you're done, could you please post them in the slides channel though, just to,
They are already there.
all right, awesome. And I am trying to find where I screen share from. There we go. No, that wasn't it. There it is. All right, so I need to release my screen, I think, so that you can do that. Okay, you should be able to share now, I hope.
I'm trying it right now. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, although I am still on the stage, so let me get rid of that. Now let me re-share again. Re-sync. Okay, give me one more second to, I think at this point, everything is set, except I'm not recording that screen just yet. So let me,
Okay. Yeah, take your time.
all right, I think we're good, Yash.
Okay, hello, this is the project, the Instrument Instruction Exchange, which is really just a alliteration, synonym play on words for the actual project name, Machine Learning Exchange. My name is Yash, and along with SRISHTI, we both worked on two separate projects, two separate proposals for this IBM project.
So, what is MLX? Machine Learning Exchange. Basically, it's an IBM application for cataloging and executing data AI assets. And it allows for the upload, registration, execution, and deployment of the following four tools: models, datasets, notebooks, and AI pipelines, as well as their components. So basically, like in a less wordy way, they can upload and execute their machine learning workflow using these four tools. And it aims to give data scientists their own like open source community tailored to their needs, because they can like kind of consolidate their work, so that like it's not like every things are being repeated too much, and things are made executable within the platform, which is what makes it unique too. And people can browse their own, or browse existing pipelines and create their own easily as well with the asset catalog and the execution platform. Next slide. Okay. So just for some background before I get into exactly how it works, the four pieces that I mentioned before, like the notebooks, the data sets, the models, and the pipeline, like what those are. So, because this is like also a large part of what Yash and I learned in this process. So a Jupyter Notebook is basically a program that performs machine learning workflow tasks. So the first step is like the data extraction and analysis from like the data sets that it's fed. Then the data is prepared and the model trains up the data, and after that the model is evaluated and validated, and we get the final product, a trained model. Because many of these tasks are like performed continuously, data scientists they're required to run their notebooks again and again, and this is where pipelines come in. So a pipeline is basically a program that automates the workflow it takes to produce a machine learning model. And then for this project, they use Kubeflow pipeline, which Yash will elaborate more on, but that basically allows data scientists to assemble and run a pipeline from multiple notebooks in a Kubernetes environment. So that's how those four pieces kind of work together. And then for like, the machine learning experience, the way it is divided up is that they have like an asset catalog that contains like the data sets, models, and components to build the pipelines. And then like for the execution engine, that's where the notebooks and pipelines would be more relevant, which will explain. And all of these things together are managed in multiple containers, like through Docker. Yash can explain more on the execution part.
So the whole purpose of the machine learning exchange is so that people can, so that a user will be able to access the machine learning exchange, and they can take a look at examples. That's where the notebooks and the pipelines really come into play. So one example is, which I'll show eventually during the demo, is that there's a JFK airport analysis notebook. So that's going to give you lots of data about the JFK airport, who goes, who comes, how often are people stopped by TSA, all those different, pieces of data that can be used in a machine learning project. And similarly, pipelines, for example, there's a specific calculation pipeline template. And so a user would be able to access that template through MLX, download that pipeline, and customize it for their own usage. And this technology is supposed to use Kubeflow pipelines and Kubernetes, but that requires a cloud service so that you can actually run your image on that cloud server. And so I'll elaborate on this more, but my project was to be able to make that work in Docker through a technology called Time, which is the short form for Kubernetes in Docker. There we go. Let's skip a slide. Okay. So, just a little talking about our project organization. We have an MLX Exchange GitHub that I've provided an image of here. And SRISHTI and I, we both have our own individual forks. And we picked our project proposals by going through the issues that are available on their master branch GitHub. And for our meeting with our mentor, we had weekly meetings via WebEx. And we start as a group and then we pair off. Maybe not pair since there were three of us, but since we had two separate proposals, we had two different meetings. Often we communicated through the Discord channel. And this is something that we want to improve on in general. If we have the chance to work on this again next semester, because the way that we logged our discussion was through individual text files, and those weren't always helpful. They weren't always named the best, and they weren't always updated with the information that we were talking about in the meetings as we were going. But yeah, we basically want to be able to improve on our organization a lot next semester. So I'm going to walk you guys through a quick demo for using MLX with Docker Desktop. Can everybody see my regular desktop okay? And I just pulled up Docker Desktop.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. So as we can see here, I don't have any MLX images running. But what I can do here is if I go to the GitHub, so we have this README regarding on how to get the quick start started with specifically with Docker Compose. So I've already loaded it up here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the proper directory, and then I'm going to clone. This is coming from my fork of the project, but I'm going to clone all the information within my fork. So it's just none. And so what we're going to be able to do at the end of the quick start is we're going to be able to access the API for Kubernetes and the UI locally. Once we have all our images and the containers up and running. And so what Kind is supposed to be able to do is we want to extend this getting started from just running the basic pre-built nodes and images. We want to change that so that we can allow the user to upload their own images via Kubernetes and Docker, and then they'll be able to run their own images locally through MLX. So now we've cloned our repo here. So now we're going to pull the images because we have nightly builds. Whoops! I need to first go into the quick start directory. And then I pull the images. And so as you can see, all these images are being pulled, and we will be, once they're all pulled, we'll be able to see them all within our Docker desktop. So as you can see here, we have a MLX API and MLX UI. Hopefully these work. I was running through a demo just earlier today with my mentor, and the UI wasn't working. In that case, we also have them posted on the website that I bring it up. Okay, so now I'm going to start So now all these images have been created and they're running. So now we can see here that we have a lot of these images here that are being created, and eventually they'll start to run. My computer isn't the best, so it's going to take a minute. So I'm just trying to fill time. This is working. Hopefully I should be able to. In the meantime, I will show you guys the UI for MLX. So this is the UI hosted on a website, the mlexchange.org. Okay, there we go. So this is what the API would look like if you were to type in just localhost into your web browser, but it provides a home, it provides all these data sets, models, pipelines. And so what we can see over here is that all these pipelines, these are all templated pipelines. So here's the calculation pipeline I mentioned. So if I wanted to, I could utilize this pipeline and customize it for my own usage. There are models here that I can also use, that I can train to do whatever I need to do. There are data sets regarding specific, here's one about weather. And that's a data set that I can use to train my machine learning system. And we can see here that now we have the API image running. So if I go into my web browser and I type in localhost 8080, so once this loads, right, we'll be able to see the entire API for MLX, and a user would be able to use, it looks like it's taking a second, a user would be able to use all of these pieces within their own computers. So this is all the different components of the API. So this is just how the quick start works, and my whole project proposal was using time so that we can specify a specific image to run locally on the machine. So now I'm going to go back to the presentation.
Okay, so like Yash mentioned, we had separate project proposals. So mine was to integrate project code and its data set to the asset catalog and test its usability. So just for some background, just for some background on what the project coordinate dataset is. It is basically a large. Sorry, this is being difficult. Project CodeNet is a large-scale dataset with approximately 14 million code samples written in over 50 programming languages, and each one is like a solution to one of 4,000 coding problems. So that's their very large dataset that I was trying to integrate. So basically, I just had to identify like relevant information from the dataset metadata so that it could be integrated properly, and obviously learn the entire process of how to integrate it because just beginning. And throughout this whole process, I realized I had to change stuff and redo stuff because I realized there was a more efficient way to do it, because since this data set is very, very large, just downloading and trying to do stuff that way just isn't efficient. So I had to find other ways to link it and then account for the related components, such as the notebooks, which I had to link to them from a different repo. So two examples of cool notebooks that are associated with the project coordinate dataset that I added were the language classification notebook, which uses a Keras model to detect the language of a piece of source code. And then another one was the masked language model notebook, which constructs a masked language model that can be used for source code instead of natural language sentences. So those were the things that I added, and like in the process of adding these things, I learned a lot about just like generally the machine learning workflow and like the different resources that this project depends on. So.
So, as I mentioned before, my project proposal was to be able to deploy the API and the UI with local cluster deployment, which means I wanted to use Hive. And so, a brief overview of Kubernetes and Docker. Docker images are what allow machine learning to take place. They're images that will run specific tasks. And Kubernetes' job is to have all these different containers, and Kubernetes acts like a conductor in that if we ever need to update a specific container, Kubernetes will allow all the other containers to run, and will plug out the old container and put in the new container seamlessly, so that the user won't be able to tell whenever the developer is making changes to their code. And the issues with Kubernetes and Docker regularly is that in order to have any sort of machine learning system, you need to have a cloud service that will run Docker, and the Kubernetes will oversee all of that. And so Kubernetes and Docker is supposed to allow you to have all your containers and all your images locally, so that you don't need that extra step. And then our goal was, if we eliminate that extra step of having that cloud service provider and setting all that up, it would be easier for users to start using the machine learning exchange. So what I did a lot this semester was learning, because before this I had never encountered Docker, I had never encountered Kubernetes, I had never encountered any of that stuff. So it was a lot of learning, and that came with a lot of issues, because I learned that the entire MLX team at IBM is all on macOS and Linux. So everything was built for macOS and Linux, and me being a Windows user, that meant that there were a lot of problems, as you can see here. One such example was that I had downloaded Git, and it was working just fine on the Windows subsystem for Linux. But since our end goal was to be able to have it to run on Windows, and Git wasn't working in the PowerShell, sometimes the localhost wouldn't connect, a lot of these different things. But because of all my learning with Kubernetes and Kubeflow pipelines and behind, I talked to Professor Turner a while ago, and I was in the middle of setting up a bonus session regarding Kubernetes and those two other materials that I mentioned, and that's near complete. And I also made some documentation changes on the side for two other projects, and I'm really close to getting Hive running not only on macOS and Linux, but on Windows, and hopefully within the next few days before August 20th, I'll have a pull request that will get merged with the master branch.
Okay, so basically our goals for like the next 2 weeks, for me at least, is to evaluate and test the integration of the data sets and notebooks that I was able to add, and if you find and integrate in other ways, I'll have that I'm familiar with the process.
So with my 2 weeks, the first thing that I need to do is I need to get a working Bash emulator, because I was working with my mentor just yesterday, and a problem was that we weren't able to run a lot of Bash commands for whatever reason. So I need to get that working, and then through that I need to be able to install MLX and Docker Compose, and then once that's all set up, I'll be able to have Hive up and running, and then just documentation and then pull requests. And if I have time, I want to upload a custom AI to one of the side projects that I found and present my bonus session within the coming 2 weeks. So that's the end of our presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Okay, I'm moving up to the microphone. Anybody have any questions locally?
Any having said that, I'm going to go back and read the comments. Anybody online have questions? All right, so I guess it's down to me. So first off, let's talk about the bash issue. Have you tried Git bash?
Yes, yes, I have.
So what's the, well, talk to me offline if you need to.
Yeah.
Cygwin is, the WSL is a better bash shell provides a better bash shell than Cygwin, but I've used Cygwin a lot, and up before Git bash, it was my go-to. But I found that Git bash is generally more reliable. So just, talk to me, and if there's any issues, maybe I can help you with some of that on the Windows side. So I'm just going to kind of throw that one out there. The one thing that I'm interested in on all the IBM projects is, IBM is a big company, and they do different, all of their projects are kind of organized from a corporate. They're very well organized with ways to interact with the mentors and everything. How did you have, what did you like about how you worked with IBM, or what was what aspects were different about working with IBM than you had expected? Like good or bad?
So in the beginning, I was really scared because I've never really had an interaction with anybody from IBM. Obviously, they're very big names, so I was worried that the mentors would be very formal, very uptight. But I feel like I cultivated a really good relationship with my mentor, and we had weekly meetings, and I had to spend a lot of time learning, so I was worried that, for the pace that they work at, I was worried that I would kind of be frowned upon for taking so long to learn, but it was actually the opposite. My mentor was always really helpful. He'd always be willing to adjust my schedules, and overall, it's a really positive experience, but they do work like really, really fast.
Yes.
Also,
Go ahead, please.
sorry. I personally just like the way that they organized everything in their project, because I know I made mistakes in how the way that I created stuff, or the format of my comments and stuff. So I like that they have a very uniform system, and that keeps things organized. At least now I know about the stuff, because when I started, I definitely had no sense of that.
Yeah, cool. Well, one more question, kind of for you, SRISHTI. You were working on the CodeNet data. We actually have some CodeNet people. We have one of our projects is a CodeNet project. Did you have any interactions with them? Did you guys talk at all?
No, I didn't. I probably should, though. I can do that in the next couple of weeks.
That might be useful for both projects, just as a general thing. So if you look at the IBM, or not at the IBM, if you look at the Discord, you should be able to find WALA, WALA /CodeNet. So they're working on some things. Yeah, it might be an interesting discussion. There might be some fruitful talk. One final thing, the pipelines. I've worked with pipelines before, and one of the cool things about pipelines is that depending on the dependencies among stages, you don't always, if you change something in a stage, you don't always have to recompute the previous data. Depending on how much memory you have and what's going on and how much can be cached. I'm not familiar with these machine learning pipelines. Do they feature results caching? If you change, let's say you have a pipeline that does a data, massages some data, brings it in, runs some learning cycles, and then tries to do a classification. If you change one of the stages down below, do you have to, one of the lower stages, do you have to go back through and redo all of the, rerun all of the data agglomeration steps, or does it allow you to kind of cache that away and gain the benefit of having done it once?
So from what, go ahead, Trustee, if you would.
No, if you know, you could answer.
I mean, I'm not 100% sure because it wasn't exactly what I was working with. But if I understand it correctly, I do believe that you would have to rerun your data once you update the pipeline. But then again, I'm not 100% sure. It was
Okay.
outside what I was working with.
Yeah, no, this was just something that caught my interest. You guys don't you know, if you want easy questions, don't go into something that I'm interested in.
I got a message from my mentor here that says, yes, passion does exist.
Awesome. That was what I expected because that's one of the pipeline architectures. That's one of the big advantages you can get out. Cool. Good job, guys. And thank your mentor for listening in. We appreciate when we get. That's one of the things IBM is really good about interacting with us and giving us, you know, some really good access to their code and personnel. So awesome. Any other questions? All right, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. Nice job, guys. I think this went far more smoothly than I had expected, but about as smoothly as I'd hoped. Good job with the presentations. The hard questions weren't meant to trap you. I am actually just interested in this stuff. So I think I asked asked you guys and some of the other presentations questions that had nothing to do with the presentation, but about the material that you guys were looking into. So that's good. You guys handled them well. And we will reconvene on Friday. We have a whole 8 groups presenting on Friday. So we'll be a little bit tighter on time. We'll keep time a little bit better. But I'm going to hang out here until about 3:30 or maybe a little bit after. I've got some people to talk to, but we can, you know, if you guys have any questions, we can try to answer those as well. Again, thanks a lot. You know, make sure you get credit for today. I'll try to get caught up on all of my grading and attendancing and workshops. And we'll see you guys for Friday for another round of this.